Hello everyone, welcome back. I decided to rearrange how I do the whiteboard because I don't know. It looks prettier this way. I'm actually pretty happy with this. I get to draw the logos again a little bit, which was kind of the more fun part of it. This also allows me to not worry about every single day that stuff comes out. Basically track all the big moves. Doesn't need to be an exact timeline because a lot of the space on the whiteboard was eaten up by big text saying what the date was, which feels kind of lame. But that being said, we're going to be covering April 1st through April 6th today. I'm going to try to keep that date tracker in the top corner so we at least know the time frame of when these moves are happening. I'm recording this on the night of April 6th, so we shouldn't hear any more news. But let's get into it. So nothing actually happened on April 1st to my knowledge. Haven't heard. I know I said some clarification. There was what was it? Young Whippersnappers announced they were running it back, I think, and then Achronic announced that he retired, but I'm not sure if that's still legit or April Fool's, considering it was 2 minutes after April Fool's. I'll report on that when we actually have some information about it, but I haven't heard anything about it since. But the day after April Fool's, Geekay kicked Nick and Oaly, and this was a hot mess for about an hour. Everyone was like, what are they doing? What are they doing? And tons of comments flooding in on Twitter and Reddit and Discord. And then an hour later, they're like, oh yeah, late April Fool's Day joke. And so, yeah, no, as of now, Geekay are not making a change. But if you saw the news that they were, that was a joke, apparently. Yeah. Moving on. I don't really have a logo for Nomster. It'd be fun to draw a Nomster logo now that I think about it, but I just didn't do it. Yukeo joined Shark and Jelly on Nomster. So Nomster was Shark, Jelly, and Rebmob. They earned a point together in the last split. Rebmob then got grounded, so he's no longer allowed to play in the RLCS. Forced to make a change. Yukeo is coming over from South America back into Europe. Because he's moving regions, he has to join a team with points. Jelly and Shark combined have that 1 point from qualifying for the one main event. Yukeo joins, they're off and running. So that's the current plan for Nomster. Amethyst. This was the Ex-Blazar squad of Nxghtt and Wisty. They had Leo, DKN, I believe. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but they had Leo. They have kicked Leo now, it appears, and Sad has joined them. Sad was dropped from that, or at least rumored to be, I don't know if he's actually officially been released yet, now that I think about it, but he was rumored to be dropped from that Corinthian squad where Razebull is coming in, and so Sad will be joining Nxghtt and Wisty. I do think, I haven't watched the closest, but I do feel like that's probably an upgrade, and they're also rebranding to Amethyst as they're no longer signed by Blazar. So, Complexity in the red, expected to sign Frosty. This is just following up on old news at this point. It's just looking more and more likely. There were some options before, now there's a lot less options. Expect to see Frosty alongside CRR and DS next split. Biggest one of the week. I'll still say this is the biggest one of the week. There might be one bigger depending on where your allegiances lie. Team BDS are expected to return to the RLCS. This is honestly pretty exciting as at least the organization is the defending world champions. They've won 2 world championships. They obviously found Monkey Moon when he was not Monkey Moon, or at least not known as Monkey Moon yet. And they were able to build a championship winning squad. When they exited the scene back in 2024, at the end of it, they said that, they were having to part with their current roster, but they were going to look to find the next Monkey Moon and build younger talent back up again, kind of like how they entered the scene, which, by the way, if you're able to say, let's find the next Monkey Moon, being the org who found Monkey Moon, it gives some credence to it. Speaking of, they're signing Mtzr, Nico, Giuk, and they're going to get Extra as a coach. So this signifies Extra won't be playing in the RLCS for the next split. He did play last split under Save the Game, where they made 2 main events and then failed to make the Swiss in the third one. He was actually on a team with Mtzr at the time, but now it looks like he's going to transition into coaching, at least for this next split. It wouldn't surprise me if that actually is just a permanent transition from him. From everything that we've seen about Extra and everything we learned about him over the past few years of his career, he's probably going to make an excellent coach. So I love that pickup. And then this young squad of Nico, Mtzr, and Giuk, they retained the Ascend points from the last split, with Nico and Giuk being 2/3 of that Ascend roster, and then Mtzr joins them. He performed pretty well on Save the Game with Extra and Astral. Also was on that Dignitas squad at Flip and Spin, where they, at least made the land portion and then took Carmine to game 6. So I think this is a young promising squad for BDS to be re-entering the scene with, and I wouldn't expect them to be world beaters off the start, but if you're into long-term projects, this is a great team. Next bit of news, Gen.G Mobile 1 Racing is trying out Jstn and Talk in place of Retals. So this was the team that not anyone thought would ever split, ever, for the history of time. You know, they tried to kick Cheese during the offseason. It didn't work. They're still with Cheese. I mean, it's actually the second time where the core of this roster, being Retals and Magic Bear, like back in the Optic days, Retals tried to kick Magic Bear. Well, maybe not Retals exactly, but Retals and AJ tried to kick Magic Bear for Calm, and then that got undone by the whole Rise not going to V1 fiasco. But it was like, oh, this team is just never going to make a roster move. Well, they're in discussions now. So, looks like the duo going forward as of now is Magic Bear Cheese. It's still, you know, a developing situation. The roster could still stick together for all we know, but they've at least tried out Jstn and Talk in the place of Retals. Speaking of Retals, he has been trying out with Two Piece and Parth. So, Rebellion, as you know, we know, have been considering a change. They also might still run it back as of, you know, a report. I don't think that's been clarified that they're definitely not running it back just yet, but they are trying out Retals with that two-piece Parth duo. So could be just a swap. Could see Talk insert himself into this equation. It's all up in the air, and I'll talk about that in just a second because there's one more move over in OCE. Laxton joins the X-Power duo of Scrub and Shores. So last split, the Power roster was Scrub, Shores, and Gus. Heading forward, Power has signed the former Scrims World duo of Caleb and Lunar to team alongside of Gus. And so keeping the points from that X-Power squad is Scrub and Shores. Joining them will be ex-Scrims World player Laxton. So it's just a one-for-one swap, Gus for Laxton, but then Gus keeps the org, and the other two players from Scrims are going to be signed. Actually, I believe they are actually signed by Power officially at this point. Speaking of North America, though, I've broken this down on the bottom of the board. We have our expected duos, or at least our current expected duos, and then our list of free agents doing tryouts. I got 4 teams on here. We haven't heard about this last team in a bit, to be honest, but they're also like not on social media at all, so that makes it a little bit difficult. I've labeled the amount of points that each team has as well. The Gen.G roster, Magic Bear Cheese, that duo has 25 points, obviously at the top of the board. Also, a duo as of now, from what we know of, is the 9 Lives duo of Hawkster and Chicago. There was a moment where it looked like Hawkster was going to leave 9 Lives, but then Kofor ended up leaving, so it sounds like Hawkster and Chicago at least were potentially thinking of running it back and picking up a new third. Haven't heard much clarification on that either, to be honest. Rebellion with Two Piece and Parth looks like a duo as of now. And then Lion Blaze and Percy are a duo from Omelet. They have 6 points. Zanil announced that he would be looking for a team heading into the next split. So at least as of now, would not assume they continue together. And so along here is the free agents and where they are trying out. I'm going to try to do something similar to this in future videos. Obviously, it's a little bit short right now, but you got Calm and Talk. Technically, they're 2/3 of that tech duo that has like 3 points, I think. But as of now, it doesn't look like they're, you know, dead set on sticking together. When you only have 2 points and you're getting tryouts from orgs, it makes sense to at least take those tryouts. So we know that Calm has gotten a tryout with the Shopify Rebellion duo of Two Piece and Parth. We know that Talk has gotten tryouts with both Two Piece Parth and Magic Bear Cheese. Retals, again, Gen.G could still stick, so I still have the Gen.G in parentheses next to his name, and then he's also had that tryout with Two Piece and Parth. And then Jstn, actually same goes there with, you know, trying out with Magic Bear Cheese, as well as could stick with Rebellion. And then Zanil, haven't really heard about him. I know there's other players that aren't on here, like Aqua. I think Eris and Evo are still a duo, but they might still be looking for a third. I'm not really sure. Haven't been able to keep up on that. But yeah, overall, that's the list for these past, 6 days? These videos are still not going to come out the most regularly because transfer window moves fast, and I don't want to do, you know, videos with 2 different boards. So whenever this whiteboard fills up, I'll make another video. It's kind of the plan that I've been going at. But hopefully you all enjoyed. Let me know if you like the new whiteboard setup as well. I feel like this gives me a mix in between the logos, nice section here, and then a little bit extra down here where I can talk about, you know, whatever I need to in a more organized sense. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. Also, if you're interested, I am starting a channel with my fiance. We're going to be doing different types of games, and the first game that we played is Rocket League. That video should be out now as well, so I'm going to link that in the cards at the end of the video. So if you want, you know, just watch people play Rocket League for the first time or watch me play on a controller that I'm not used to, feel free to check that out. Would appreciate it. See you guys later.